As I've mentioned, Live Session View works in a nonlinear manner, and now that we understand how clips work, let's look at how scenes are used to organize the sections of a song. So I've got exercise 1 from chapter 4 open if you want to follow along. And now that we understand how clips work, I'll start this discussion by saying that as you start to see clips that are going to work together, you're going to want to move those so that they are on the same row. And we can do that by just clicking and dragging and dropping them where they need to go. Now, if you follow one of these rows over onto the master track, you'll notice that there's also launch buttons there. And these slots over here are referred to as scenes, and a scene is a collection of clips. So if I launch this play button here that's on this verse scene, it is going to launch all the related clips. So let me click this play button. So I stopped playback by hitting my space bar, and you'll notice that all of these clips remained in focus the same way when I was launching single clips in the previous video. So now if I want to restart playback, I can just press my space bar and anything that has focus will play. Now this time I'm going to click the Stop All Clips button to stop playback. So once it did that, you'll notice that it removed focus from all of the playing clips. And you'll also notice that it took a second to do that. And that is because of the global quantization value, which is set at 1 measure. So when you click the Stop All Clips button, it's going to wait until the beginning of the next measure to stop playback. Now, another way that we can start playback is to select a scene and hit our return key. And this is special in that when I do this action, it's also going to drop down and select the next scene and wait for me to start playback there. So I'm just going to hit return. So the next scene is selected and waiting for me to hit the return key again. And now verse 2 is playing. I'm going to wait until the 4th bar. Launch. So again, each time I did that, it weighted the global quantization amount before it launched the next scene, and that kept everything playing in sync. Now, if you need more time, you can set this to 2 or 4 or 8 bars. You can also set it to a shorter value, but I typically work with this at 1 measure. And if you've got all your scenes laid out in the order that you want them to play, you can trigger the entire song by just selecting your intro and then hitting your return or enter key successively at the right time, and it will launch the whole song. Now, at times, you're going to want to reorder scenes or create space to create a new scene. And we can do that by dragging a scene and putting it in a different order. I'll put that back to where it was. And we can also reorder that by holding down your Command key if you're on a Mac or the Control key if you're on a PC, and then using your up and down arrow keys. I'll move that back up. Now, if you need to add space, we can do that by selecting a scene and then right-clicking and choosing Insert Scene, and it's going to insert that new scene after the currently selected scene. So now that I have this space, I can drag clips from other clip slots, or I can copy them. Remember, one of the easiest ways to copy scenes is to hold down your Option or Alt key and just click and drag. You can also do that with a selection. For example, let's say I want to select all these verse clips. I'll shift click them across there, and then I'm just going to Option click and drag those up. Now, if you want to delete that scene, we can do that by just hitting our Delete key, and it's gone. Another way that we can either copy a scene or insert another scene is to use the duplicate function. For example, if I wanted a double verse, I could just press Command D on a Mac or Control D on a PC, and the selected scene will be duplicated. Now, another way that I can create a new scene is to choose a bunch of clips from across all of the clips that I have out there. And to make this work, I need them all to have focus. So I'm going to first click the Stop All Clips button, and then I'm just going to launch a bunch of disparate clips. Okay, so now that these are all in focus, I can go over into my master track in the scene area, and I'm going to select one of the scenes, and then I'm going to right click, and I'm going to choose Capture and Insert Scene. And so it's taken all of those clips that I had playing that were in focus, and it's copied them, and it's now moved them onto a new scene. Now, if I want to name that, I can go over and select the scene over here on the master track. And to make this work, by the way, I'm going to click Stop All Clips because I don't want those clips to have focus as I do this. But with that scene selected, I can rename it using kind of the universal Ableton renaming thing, is where you select it and then you press Command R if you're on a Mac or Control R if you're on a PC. And now I can type a new name here and hit my return key. Now, if I want to color this so that it's color coded like the rest of these scenes, I can right click on that and I can choose a color from the bottom of the contextual menu. Let's say I want to make it that color. Again, if I want to delete that, I can just hit my delete key and it's gone. Now, I want to explain one other curious action that you probably haven't noticed. And that is when I play the verse scene here, it's going to play this sine bass track. And when I fire off the pre-chorus scene, the sine bass clip is stopped because there is an empty clip slot here and there is a stop button. So it's the presence of that stop button that actually stops that sine bass clip from playing. Now, if we want, we can remove that by right-clicking and choosing Remove Stop Button, or using the key command, Command E on a Mac or Control E on a PC. And now that there's no stop button there, I'm going to play the verse clip or the verse scene and then launch the pre-chorus scene, and you're going to hear that sine bass part continue to play. So now we're hearing both bass parts playing because that one is still playing because there was no stop button. So that can be handy if you've got the same clip on several successive scenes. All right, let me undo that. And let me show you one other thing that you're going to want to know about, and that is that we can have tempo and meter changes associated with scenes. Now, in Ableton 10, we would actually type that information into the scene name, but with Ableton 11, we actually have dedicated fields for that. So, for example, if I want the tempo to increase at the pre-chorus, I can select that field and type a new tempo and hit my return key to log that in. Now, watch what happens when I click play. You notice that it just changed the tempo for all the other scenes? That's just an indication that if you're going to have a tempo change in your project, you're going to need to associate a tempo change with each of the scenes. And this is done because you might play these out of order and may want to return to a previous tempo. So if you want that to happen, you need to type that tempo in for every scene. And the same thing if you're going to have a meter change associated with the scene. All right, so now that you're familiar with how scenes work, you can experiment with the form of your songs while you work out your ideas.